Fireside Chat on Red Bull Music Academy Radio.
Hi, this is DJ Frankie Bones, and you're listening to Red Bull Music Academy Radio.
This is a journey into sound.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a product of the 60s, a teenager. I guess turned a teenager in the 80s and lived in New York during a very hard time in, the city's history where there was lots of gangs and lots of, just depressed. It was a different time. It wasn't like, the New York we know today. It was definitely more seedy, more... a very difficult place to grow up in. You would get beat up by kids, bullies, and all types of gangs. And I went through a really hard time in the 80s. But, I have to admit it was the best times ever to actually live through, when hip-hop first started, when it was underground and coming out of that culture. And, living through graffiti and breakdancing. It was amazing times, definitely. I don't come from a musical background of piano or instruments. Basically, my father was big on the rock thing in the 60s, during the Woodstock era, and always had lots of records around the house. So basically, most of my history of DJing comes through records and just growing up around that. My parents were big on going to clubs and, in the 70s. And it's always been based around records. So, it was a natural progression, Instead of having one turntable, you get two turntables and you start blending these things together. And this started, 1980, before MTV. It was this very new thing, like this DJing thing. I was really young. I was 12, 13 years old. And, the breakdancing, the graffiti, it all just came together in the early 80s. And I think my timing, I'm 46 years old now, but my timing was perfect. Like being a teenager in the 80s, you couldn't really ask for anything better than to be from New York. We had the movies like Saturday Night Fever and The Warriors were big New York movies. And, just out of those two movies themselves, it was like my life was pretty much like a combination of both those movies, so, and Beach Street, stuff like that. But, it was wonderful times. There's nothing like what was going on in New York anywhere else in the world at that time. So, yeah, it was definitely what shaped me to do what I'm doing today. Well, I wouldn't quite say a gang like the Warriors. We were more like a breakdance crew, but there was kids in the crew that, definitely were up to no good. And, writing graffiti, you're definitely doing something illegal when you're jumping down on, off a train platform to run in a tunnel to paint trains. That was totally illegal. And the first time I did it, it was really jumping off the back of the platform, Grant Avenue in Queens, and running into a dark tunnel. There's trains in there, and the 5 minutes we were in there, we were getting chased by police, and it was always something dangerous. I mean, I almost died twice. A train pulled out while I was under it, hiding from the cops. The train actually pulled out, and I was under it. I'm trying to, like, get, out, and the third rail's right there, and, you can't touch that or you'll get electrocuted, and... The turntables never really overtook the spray cans or the break dancing. Now, I wasn't a great break dancer. I do come from the roller disco era. I was an excellent roller skater, but I think everything played a part together, like break dancing and the culture of graffiti and the music. We had really good radio in New York in the 70s and 80s. Kiss FM. They were doing Latin Rascals mixes, and they were all these edits and stuff that you never heard before. So it was a wonderful time. Grandmaster Flash, the Amazing Adventures on the Wheels of Steel and stuff like that. That was just, the point where it was like you take a bunch of records and you make a new record from it. And that concept is what really fueled me as a DJ. It was like taking the great moments from one weekend and making it into a new moment for next weekend. And I wound up running with that when I first started making Bones breaks. And, we had no problem sampling anybody. In fact, people were like, oh, you had a hit record if Bones samples your record. And I definitely took the art of sampling, along to the next level. Like when Todd Terry introduced it to New York in '87, I was right around doing that. So it was, like I said, we were just really a little bit ahead of the cusp on it. But like that's where my break came from, because people in Europe were starting to be receptive to it, and it kind of just it went out. Like I jumped off a train platform to write graffiti, and I got to see the world from it somehow. So Bones Break started off as just a bunch of loops and, from the hip-hop era. It was just everything. We threw it in a pot and just stirred it around. So it was freestyle, it was house, it was breaks, it was hip-hop, it was everything that, my thing was taking things that didn't belong together and making them into a marriage. Like, like taking a hip-hop song and then putting it over a house beat, or having a break beat over, a straight house, beat. And a lot of the stuff was scrappy stuff we didn't use on a record and just throw it on there. And you figured throw 8 of these things on one record and sell it for the price of a 12-inch. And I wrote on there by DJs for DJs in a time when nobody did anything like that. So, for another DJ to see that another DJ did something kind of for them, it definitely, it worked out really well. Actually, we sold lots of units on those.